warning everybody, that was crazy yesterday. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I thought it was kind of funny too. I started streaming, and that's the first time I heard the show, and I was like, what? I'm really glad it fixed itself after 2 minutes. I don't know what I did. I'm gonna just in case this time. And anyway, good morning everyone. Thanks for joining me today. And let's get right into it. There is so much going on. There are things going on that I can't talk about. I want to talk about them, but I can't talk about them. And it's very interesting, and I'm very, very interested to see what will happen. And I hope I can talk about them on Monday. But we will see. We will find out what happens in a few days. There are lots of things happening, and it's very interesting to see. And the Western Standard, I've been paying attention, and these guys are relatively new. And wow, some big guests. They've got the Liberty Caucus on. They've got the doctors on. These doctors are Dr. Hodgkinson, Dr. Modry, Dr. Phillips. And these guys have been speaking out. I think it's Dr. Hodgkinson spoke out at the Edmonton City Council meeting early on in this pandemic, early on in this whole situation, saying basically the same thing that what he's been saying since. And Dr. Phillips has been around. He did a panel with Dr. Kaur and Dr. Gill, and Dr. Modry is an international person who is very well respected in Canada. He set up, there's lots of information about these gentlemen, but this 2 hours is worthwhile. It is poignant. It is clear. The only drawback is that occasionally Dr. Hodgkinson's audio is kind of crackling in and out, and it's just a connection issue. It's a shame, but the thought or what he's trying to get through gets through, and I think that that's important. It's worth watching this. Go and watch this. I'm going to show you just a little tiny bit of this clip. I'll get out of the way, and it's Dr. Hodgkinson, so excuse the connection issues. This is important. This is professional people who have a lot of experience, and we talk a lot about how much experience matters, right? So professional people with a lot of experience saying there's something wrong here. Okay, here we go.
If you were still in practice and
that was not queued up right. Now it's queued up right. Here we go.
Well, first of all, can you hear me clearly? Because I've been having a lot of chopping in that. That's fine. Well, let me paint the big picture here. First of all, I'm not a clinician, but I can say this, I think, with some certainty. If I could borrow, there's no there. This is, in the grand scheme of things, a minor infection. The vast majority of the population are simply, the working well, as I call them. They are not dying in any larger numbers than they have with previous flu epidemics. The essence of this matter is to protect the vulnerable, the elderly in nursing homes, as described in the Great Barrington Declaration by 3 esteemed international epidemiologists, who basically said nothing needs to be done except focused protection for that group of people. Those people are in essentially self-quarantined locations called nursing homes. They're outdoors. All that needs to be done is to protect them in ways that are very established with infection control. Manuals on the shelves that do exactly that. Testing is not required for anyone except people in sufficient distress that they may need to be admitted to hospital. Asymptomatic testing has been an absolute disaster. Massive numbers of false positives. Then the contacts of those people get taken out of the workforce as well, resulting in a huge knock-on effect of the false positive results. So it's essentially, this is, again, to borrow a phrase from American politics, this is a nothing burger. It's
a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger. Interesting. And the whole video is full of stuff like this. Dr. Phillips makes interesting observations and makes points that have not been made in the mainstream media, but need to be made, talking about all sorts of stuff. And it's worth the watch. Go watch it. At the end, they say what's going to happen. They speculate on kind of what's going to happen. It's not optimistic. I wouldn't say it's optimistic. The host says she thinks that probably masking and social distancing is here to stay for a while. And I hope that that's wrong. I hope I hope people wake up. Okay, I want to show you this. This is, if you've ever watched Amazing Polly, she's talked about hostage videos, right? Where it looks like the person is like being held hostage. This is kind of like that, except that he's the person holding your healthcare hostage. This is Dr. Michael Warner. And I will play this, and I hope that it's loud enough. And he is threatening. Make no mistake, he is outlining his demands, or he is going to deny you healthcare. That's what he's saying here. Make absolutely no mistake. Look at his eyes as well. He's looking above the screen, which is weird. Why would you need to look above the screen? So it looks like he's got a paper or something like that posted above the screen. Why wouldn't you just put it on the screen? Because like if you look at the laptop screen, you're looking at the laptop, and it looks like I'm looking at you, right? But if you look above the laptop, you can see the difference. And he's looking above the laptop. Why would you do that? Like if you've got a written statement to read, it seems odd. It seems like a weird choice. Anyway, this is a situation where this doctor is making a very clear threat, and he's got his list of demands. I've handily written them out for you to see here. Here you go. And interestingly as well, he's saying these things might happen. They could happen. Their trajectory is concerning. It could start to impact patients. You didn't protect the hospitals. Anyway, it's very interesting. Listen to this. Here we go.
Dr. Michael Warner, ICU physician, with a message for the Premier, his cabinet, and the Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. David Williams. Today, there are 401 patients in Ontario's ICUs with COVID-19, 38 new patients overnight. The trajectory is extremely concerning. GTA hospitals are under immense pressure. Patients could start to suffer. The plan that you have implemented so far has not worked. It has not protected Ontarians. It has not protected the hospitals. It has not allowed us to provide non-COVID related care in the way that we must. It's really your move now. We need bold action, decisive action today to protect us, to make sure essential workers don't get sick, those with exposure risk don't get sick, that vaccines go to the people who need them, that we have paid sick leave, paid vaccination time, and that I do not, and my colleagues do not have to use this form, the short-term mortality risk form. This is the form that we may have to use if we get to a triage situation where we're forced to deny care to patients who would otherwise receive it today. It's time to change our course. We need to make decisions today to protect the healthcare system and Ontarians from what could be coming. Thank you.
Generally, like, did you ever watch MASH? The guys who were operating in the OR, and the bombs were going off, and they were cracking jokes, and people were coming in with more casualties, and they were super funny, and they were whatever. They were making sexually inappropriate jokes to the nurses, etc. Some good wholesome things to grow up on. It seems like he's saying if we don't change course, things could get bad. They're not bad now because we're at like 85% of capacity of the hospitals, and the hospitals aren't very busy. They're getting more busy because people are getting used to going back to normal. Normal, mind you, in most of Ontario is hallway medicine, 110% capacity hospitals. Just to remind you of what normal is, okay? Normal's not 85% and dancing in the hallways by the nurses and stuff. Usually they're busy, right? So normal is everybody's running, everybody's trying to keep up with the care that needs to be done. It didn't used to be that we had these forms that he's referring to. That was new. That was a situation where they were saying this might overwhelm us, and so we're going to have to pick and choose who we can give care to. This is happening in the UK as well. There was a guy I highlighted months ago now who said, my mom is going to die because they're saying that her quality of life isn't going to be there in a year from now. They could save her. They could do something to help her now. But they're saying because of this form, they can't, and they're withholding care, and so she's going to die. And she did, as far as I understand, died. The account got scrubbed. I tried to use the video again later, but the account got scrubbed. So he's making a threat. We'll deny you care with this form, this new form that now tells us that we can deny care and not run into hallway medicine because COVID, right? He's making a threat to the Premier, to the citizens of Ontario. If you don't make sure essential workers don't get sick and exposure risk people don't get sick and vaccines go to those who need them, according to this doctor, and you get paid sick leave and paid vaccination time, we're going to deny you care with this handy form that we've got. See? And did you like his little head flip? Dr. Warner. Isn't the Hippocratic Oath, is that how you say Hippocratic Oath? To do first do no harm, right? If you don't do what I'm telling you to do, I'm going to sign this form. Sorry, the head bob just killed me. Ridiculous. It's crazy. It is crazy. Welcome to Upside Down world. Who knew that the Twilight Zone and the Stranger Things were prophetic, right? We're in the Upside Down now, right? Like we're in the Twilight Zone. We're in the Outer Limits. This is a wacky government experiment gone wrong, right? It's gone so wrong that here's Dr. Matt Strauss, and he says, this article is a week old. I've been thinking about it all week. 4 times as many kids trying to kill themselves. We'll come back to this when we talk about the schools, but he's back to Matt Strauss. He says, kids trying to kill themselves. We have thrown our youngest off a cliff to appease the plague gods. It didn't work. Shame on us all. Absolutely. Here's another one. O'Toole, more people have died of drug overdoses in BC in the past year than of COVID. That's true in Guelph too. We need an immediate action plan to reopen our country and our economy to restore hope to Canadians. I mean, if there's no hope, why engage with life, right? Conservative leader... Oh, sorry, hold on. That tab snuck in there and it shouldn't have been there, so sorry about that. Fundamentally, I think that it's interesting that we've got a government that is overstepping, doctors who are threatening to withhold care, and a situation where other concerns are eclipsing COVID-19 but being completely ignored. And totally, completely ignored. Not just like a little ignored, totally ignored. Kids trying to hurt themselves and attempting to harm themselves. Let's not talk about that in favor of online school. We'll get there. Okay, moving into vaccines. Senator Linda Frum says, denying elderly Canadians their second dose according to the manufacturer's recommended guidelines amounts to criminal negligence, she says. She's responding to Laura Stone, says, new study casts doubt on time between COVID-19 vaccine doses by Kelly Grant, Globe and Mail. So they're talking about... and here's the headline. It says, Health Canada must stop endangering lives by delaying second dose of COVID vaccines. It's more than one study that's saying that there's concerns about extending the dosing schedule the way Canada is doing and the way they're scheduling things. And I don't know if Ms. Frum is right, if Senator Frum is right, but it's interesting that it doesn't seem to matter. Like, that doesn't seem to matter. The potential for this being criminal negligence, nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're not going to pause it to look at this. Because if they pause it to look at us, it'll never get started again, and they know that. So they're going to continue hoping that either the courts will side with them, and if you're paying attention to the CO2 constitutionality fight, well, they've got a pretty good shot of that happening, looks like. And these concerns will be swept under the rug with a max payout of X amount of dollars per injury, or like a sliding scale if you were this injured versus up to this injured, right? If you get, if you had something wrong with, if you got the shakes, right? Like I've seen people with uncontrollable motion, then you get this payout. But if you experience death, you get this payout, right? Because vaccine injuries happen. They're a thing. It's not, and before COVID as well, they were a thing then. They were a thing now. It's the human body is not perfect. I don't know that the risk is worth the reward, right? And I don't know what the Canadian. No, I have an idea of what the Canadian government is thinking and doing what they're doing, but it does not seem responsible. And it seems like if we had a Harper government in, or a government that the press didn't like, they'd be screaming bloody murder. The press would be saying that this is irresponsible, we can't do this, look at these studies, blah, blah, blah. But instead, it's a friendly press with a paid-off press with a prime minister willing to continue the payments. And that does not serve the public good, in my opinion. But maybe that's just my opinion. I think this is interesting. Guelph, I've been talking about this. So Guelph Public Health has an Arabic and Mandarin session today for information about the vaccines. And I'm interested, will they tell the people in these different languages about the blood clotting issue? Is informed consent part of it, right? How about the potential drawbacks of masking, right? Where's the informed consent about that? Wellington, Dufferin, Guelph Public Health. But where is the French session? Isn't it an official language? I have no idea if an information session are even offered in French. Where can I book that? I'll be following up, and I will. But I think that it's interesting that we've gone so far to cater to every niche that you could possibly think of, that we completely forget that there's like an official second language of the country that is underserved right? And kumbaya and yay that we've got Arabic and Mandarin, and these are 2 of 6 different languages. But what happened to like upholding our culture and tradition in our country? Is that demonetizing the video? Right? Like, you're not allowed to say that. Getting into talking about vaccinations, here is what's happening in the UK. Republicans and Tories MPs criticize suggestion of COVID pub certificates. So they want vaccine certificates to get into the bar. And then there's a big backlash in England. After an angry backlash from the UK hospitality sector, Prime Minister Boris Johnson reverses course on a plan to introduce passports for pubs. So Angela Merkel reversed course because she locked them down in Easter and they said, no. And she said, sorry about that, my bad. And then the Brits don't want any kind of pub passport. Boris Johnson, oh, my bad, sorry. What will it take for Canadians? What will it take for Canadians? I don't know. But here is the very beta male Canadian COVID bodyguard with the fanny pack on and the jogging pants. It's natural to be skeptical, but vaccine IDs are here to stay, says the National Post. Get used to it. Get used to it. We're not propaganda. Just listen to us and don't question what we say. This is the most cringy propaganda. It's really, really terrible. This is the 3-minute video that this news article is based on, and I'll give you a little flavor of this. Okay, I'll give you a little flavor. Here we go.
If you are one of the lucky Canadians who has gotten the COVID vaccine, you will soon be able to obtain government-issued ID stating that you are officially among the vaccinated. By midsummer, we can fully expect that if you want to go to the movies, get your hair cut, or grab a pint, businesses are going to start requiring you to flash your vaccine card. Now I hear you.
Cringy. Yeah, I've got a lot of... There's a lot of problems with this. Usually the news is there to educate you, tell you what's happening. This is there to bludgeon you into submission. Don't ask about it. Don't question it. It's going to be there if you want to go to a movie or get your hair cut. So if you want to join society, you'll get the vaccine like a good sheep. No, thanks. Nope. No, thank you very much. I think I'll carry on with my life as normal, and the politicians can catch up or not. I think that they're realizing that the public's not going there with them. Okay. This is the timeline. Somebody's done this, and I tagged it a little while ago. I meant to use it a few weeks ago, but I forgot. It was, sometimes I'll tag a thing on Twitter and it'll go to the top, but I meant to talk about something in the response. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it's a Twitter thing, it'll go to the top and I won't remember that it was lower. Like sometimes the response is either a tweet I've tagged already or something that fires me off in a different direction. I've done that before. I've talked about something and then scrolled down and realized that it was a different thing that I was trying to talk about. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Regardless, that was a little aside. This has been bang on. And I want to, so this was done January 29th. Since January 29th, can anybody say variants of concern? February 29th, roll it in. Okay, projected COVID-19 mutation and or co-infection with secondary virus, referred to as COVID-21, COV, right, or VOC, variants of concern, leading to a third wave. Oh, third wave! They said it. We should have a bingo card for this, okay? Leading to a third wave with a much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection expected by February 2021. Okay, so the variants of concern were introduced around February 2021, February 15th, 2021. They changed the PCR cycles for surveillance of the variants of concern. Do you remember that? I talked about that. You can see that on the February 16th show. You can go back and watch it if you want to. I think that one's on Rumble. So this is being followed. It says Q1, reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the universal basic income. We talked about that. That's happening. Check. Daily new cases of COVID-21 hospitalizations and COVID-19 and variants of concern. They call it COVID-21, but it's variants of concern. Related deaths will exceed medical care facilities capacity expected Q1, Q2, 2021. Do you remember what we started the show with, everybody? The hostage video, right? If you don't lock us down, give us what we want, we will withhold care, right? Check. Check mark. Big fat checkity check, check. Okay? Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as the third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including interprovincial and intercity, expected Q2 2021. Ready? You ready? Transition of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program expected mid Q2 2021. That's before summer, June, July. Could we see that through summer? Now, what I wanted to talk about is this one, late Q2 2021. Projected supply chain breakdown, inventory shortages, large economic instability expected late Q2 2021. You can't turn off the economy. You can a little bit. Doug Ford has turned off the economy, and you've seen people struggling to return their businesses, etc. But the things economy, like I can order some stuff on eBay and sell it here. People will have storefronts again at some point, but the world is continuing to spin, and the stock market's doing pretty well, right? Like the economy's not crashing because of COVID-19. We found our ways around it. We'll get restaurants and other things back, hopefully, eventually. But the economy fundamentally is not being decimated the way they need. If you watch X22, or if you know anything about fiat currency and wars and resets of currencies, they need a big event to force the reset. They need to say that thing happened, and in response to that thing, COVID was supposed to be it, but it's not it, right? It's not happening. It hasn't happened. The economy grew with COVID, right? So we're working to get back to normal, right? They're introducing budgets saying, we can pay this money back after 60 years or something like that. Ridiculous. Doesn't matter. But they needed a big thing to happen. And I was like, I don't know. And at the beginning of this, I said, I don't know how we're going to get to a universal basic income. There's some things that need to happen for these other things to happen. It's hard to plan those things out. It's hard to get those things triggered that long out. I said, like, plans are usually, you can't plan something a decade out unless you're like, I'm going to go to school and be a PhD 10 years from now. Like, you could do that, but that's a lot of fortitude and not exactly what I'm talking about. But how do you manufacture? Long way to get to. How do you manufacture a supply chain breakdown? How do you make sure a supply chain breakdown happens? How do you stop the world from moving things? How do you do that? That's not it. This is it. Evergreen. The suspension of traffic through the narrow channel linking Europe and Asia has deepened problems for shipping lanes that were already facing disruption and delays. So we're in a situation where the Suez Canal blocked all of the, and I mean, if you've seen there's been maps of the, I'll see if I can find one. Hold on. Okay, so I was looking for the maps about all of the piling up of shipping ships through the Suez Canal. This is a major shipping channel, right? It cuts a lot of time off. It's a major deal. It's a huge deal that this is broken, okay? And New York Post is reporting cargo ship drew a penis and a butt before getting stuck in the Suez Canal. Now, the thing that you have to know is these canals have like harbor masters, right? And I watched a video about this yesterday, which is where I saw the maps, and I finding the video again and then finding the sources from the video is a lot of work, and I'm just not going to do it right now. But in the video, he was talking about how there's no way he was talking about how the harbor master would know that harbor better than any other place on earth, and that's their only job, to get the ships safely through one side of the harbor to the other side of the harbor. And like, if you do something at work and you cost the company some money, you make a boneheaded mistake and you hand an order out, like at Taco Bell, right? You work at Taco Bell and you hand the wrong order out, like, here's your fries supreme, and they didn't order a fries supreme, and you feel kind of stupid. You're like, oh, right. This is that times a lot more, okay? But it seems like as soon as I saw this, this phrase popped into my head, because this is what this guy did after he drew the penis and the butt. I'll tell you what it is as soon as we look at the picture, but I want to read this first. According to the nautical tracking service Vessel Finder, the massive Evergreen charted a route resembling a penis, testicles, and an enormous butt in the Red Sea before it became stuck, causing an intercontinental traffic jam in the marine artery. As for the possibility that the vessel tracking site somehow conjured the data as a juvenile genitals joke, there is no room for some kind of conspiracy or false data, a spokesperson for the site told Vice. They said the data is real. That's what that boat did. So a guy who draws that in the Red Sea and then does this to the shipping container, or to the shipping container boat in the middle of the Suez Canal, doesn't that like say I'm gonna F you in the behind, right? Like 1, 2, 3, here we go, bop, right? And the traffic it's a big problem, and like this is one of the few places I don't know, a few places. There are other places that you could get stuck in the canal that it wouldn't be as big a deal because other boats could still get through. But this is, you're just stuck. And I was using this to show that the Canadian economy, they're expecting growth. It says, given the stronger starting point, output is now forecast to return to its pre-pandemic level in the third quarter, a quarter earlier than our December projection, TD economists said in their quarterly report. On an annual basis, we've revised up our forecast from 4.9% to 6% growth for the Canadian economy in 2021. But the bank warns that the forecast is highly dependent on the pace of the vaccine rollout and the potency of the virus's variants. Do you think that the variants of concern are going to have a bigger impact on the economy, or do you think that the giant penis and the butt are going to have a bigger impact? I think that maybe our economy might be, right? Like the back of a Volkswagen Beetle. Mallrats was a good movie. Okay. It's a scooter. Moving into governance. Feds admit for the first time that the government paid millions in fraudulent curb claims. Audit found 30,000 suspected cases worth $42 million. Oh, what's another $42 million on the debt? Right? We're just going to grow into it. No problem. We'll just import enough people and grow into the debt. And then, I don't know. I don't know what happens after that. It's terrible. Like, I'm joking. I'm being facetious here, right? Like, this is terrible governance. This is not the way that you're supposed to handle taxpayer money. This is a travesty. This is the Fries Supreme. This is the Suez Canal just happening in Canada. I mean, not exactly, but it is poor governance. It is badly handled, and nobody's going to be held accountable for this. That's it. The person who's going to be held accountable is the taxpayer. The person who pays more taxes for everything, the person who pays more for everything is on the hook for these errors. Okay. Andrew Scheer is asking, Trudeau's infrastructure plan is failing Canadians. He's basically saying that, well, it says the report concludes that the Trudeau government does not have basic accountability measures in place to determine if their infrastructure plan is meeting its objectives. The billions of dollars are going unspent, and the Liberals are failing to quickly get funds to critical infrastructure projects. The combination of facts points to one thing: the Liberals are failing to properly manage their infrastructure plan. I mean, I really should have my prices right ready. I should. Oh well. Yeah, they're bad at governing. The Liberals don't answer questions they don't like, and they're bad at governing, and they don't seem to care. Because accountability, they'll just call you racist, right? They're white supremacists, racists, terrorists. How many other ists? Islamophobists? Dan Kelly says, thanks to the CPC leader Aaron O'Toole for meeting with CFIB today to discuss our recommendations for the budget and economic recovery. Small businesses appreciate your work to get the feds and provinces to build a plan for a safe but steady reopening of the economy. What has either done? Can anybody point to something that the CPC has done concretely to stop the lockdowns or to get people back to work? I'm asking genuinely. I don't know that I can name anything that they've said, like, we're going to get people back to work by supporting this initiative. We're going to not support the lockdowns. I don't want stories of the CPC getting loans to people, because the quantitative easing makes me think, if you're working on getting loans to people, maybe you're playing for the other team. Maybe you're on board with this quantitative easing, because loans helps underpin the need for easy liquidity, easy money, right? Easy to lend money, cheap money, right? And what's Dan Kelly done? Like, has he said these lockdowns need to end, or we're gonna support businesses and social? What's the word where you don't listen? I can't. It's like social non-compliance or mass non-compliance or whatever it is. I can't remember. There's a term, but I'm getting it wrong. But when you don't comply with what they want. Like mass civil disobedience. Pop, there it is. Civil disobedience. Yeah. Something like that. Why? Like, or like bringing legal action or something to that effect. Why? Where is it? Why not? Like, you've got resources. People are saying, isn't this unconstitutional? The public health officer took possession of Adam Skelly's business in order to shut it down. There's no legal action there that you could support and say, we support Skelly. You shouldn't do this. No. We'll stay quiet. I mean, maybe Skelly's not your client. Maybe he's not paying fees and stuff, but that's not the point. You need to be shown as standing up for the small businesses and supporting them, right? And like talking to the CPC leader, who doesn't exactly have a great track record of like, yeah, we've done lots of great stuff during the pandemic. Sign up for your loan today, right? Like, I don't even know if they've done that. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. But it doesn't seem like enough. It seems tone deaf to me. Okay. All right. Moving into carbon taxes. Okay. Yesterday, the Canadian Supreme Court decided they were scientists and that climate change is real and that carbon taxes are constitutional. And a lot of people are upset about that. All right, fair enough. Here's Jason Kenney's statement. I'm going to go through most of it. I think it's kind of like it's quick hits, short. And yeah, I've got time. Okay, a strong majority of Albertans elected this government because of our commitment and to repeal the NDP carbon tax. We kept that commitment with our first law, blah, blah, blah. We committed to building a coalition of provinces opposed to the federal carbon tax and to challenge its constitutionality in court. We kept that commitment too. We had a coalition of Canadian provinces representing 80% of Canadian population who joined us in defending our taxpayers and our province's constitutional jurisdiction. Alberta's Court of Appeal rendered its 4-1 decision on our judicial reference, deciding clearly that the federal carbon tax is not constitutional. Page 2. The federal government appealed. I'll just get rid of me here. Hold on. The federal government appealed that decision to the Supreme Court of Canada, which released its judgment today. We are obviously disappointed with that decision. The Supreme Court ignored the Alberta Court of Appeal's warning and discovered a new federal power that erodes provincial jurisdiction and undermines our constitutional system. Albertans will continue to defend jobs, our economy, and our constitutional authority. We will continue to press our case challenging Bill C-69, the federal No More Pipelines law, which is currently before the Court of Appeal. We will do everything in our power to minimize costs on Albertans and our trade exposed in industries that must compete globally while ensuring that we continue to responsibly reduce emissions in our province. Alberta's government has supported the development of world-class technology that has helped the Canadian oil sands to reduce the carbon footprint of a barrel of bitumen by 30% over the past 2 decades. We will continue to do our part to secure a strong future for our energy needs while supporting that industry and reducing emissions. Finally, I'd like to thank our allied provinces who stood with Alberta in defending our economies and the place of strong provinces in the Canadian Federation. A strong Canada needs strong provinces standing up for each other and for the Constitution, and we will continue to do so proudly on behalf of all Albertans. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Constitution seem to be kind of being shredded recently by all levels of government and the courts. So, yay. That's nice sounding words, right? Nice sounding words, Jason Kenney. Notwithstanding clause? Where's that, right? Okay, notwithstanding the unconstitutionality, or notwithstanding that, we're going to do it. We're going to ignore it anyway. No? Maybe? Yes? I would do it. Let's go, Doug Ford. Buckle up. Let's see Justin Trudeau take you to court to enforce that. That's probably what happened. Opposition repeats pledge to repeal carbon tax after Supreme Court upholds fuel charge as lawful. So Aaron O'Toole is maintaining his idea that he can extract just as much money from you by taxing his way than as taxing Trudeau's way, and he's going to maintain that path. But it's the same destination, right? We're all going to the same place. Here is Rex Glacier. This is Jonathan Wilkinson. He is the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, and he's using a New York Times article to say the concept of carbon pricing has been widely endorsed by economists, and according to the World Bank, some form of it has been carried out is in development in 64 countries. BC has had a carbon tax since 2008. Do you know how many emissions they've reduced since 2008? Yeah, none. And you can see because Ontario didn't have carbon tax and the emissions are the same. They grow the same. Actually, I think BC grew faster. But the funny thing is they have this wacky carbon economy, right? So the carbon tax buys into this carbon economy that you and I can't really buy into, but it's kind of like the stock market. You can buy like carbon futures and all sorts of stuff. So they are creating a shadow economy that people are excluded from. But if you're a business, you have to, it creates barriers to business. It's an awful, terrible idea. Terrible, awful, ridiculous idea. Go check out the gas prices in Vancouver and ask yourself, what does this do for the environment? And then the answer is nothing. But it makes some elite people richer. Do you know that Trudeau owns like gas stations across Eastern Ontario? And he's got family ties to Irving. Irving is like the big cheeses out there, right? Very interesting stuff to know, right? Very interesting stuff to know. How do we buy Saudi oil, right? Why do we do that? And it all takers where? Okay. Just checking. Okay. Rex Glacier says, another rich, privileged liberal trying to mask Trudeau's carbon tax scheme as some global endorsement of governments pretending the carbon tax is anything other than a tax grab, while the rich like him won't even notice the cost with his next fatty pay raise. Yeah, they've gotten lots of pay raises through the years. Question, says Murray, was the Supreme Court asked to rule on the validity of global warming or whether the tax is constitutional? Seems to me that they have overstepped their mandate and become a scientific panel without scientific expertise. Supreme Court rules Trudeau carbon tax is constitutional. And why do they say they've a science panel without scientific expertise? This is one of the judge's words. Quote, climate change is real and an existential threat, said Judge Wagner. Seems at least 6 of our Supreme Court justices have accepted the alarmist rhetoric and faulty modeling at face value. Yes, let's, it's constitutional because it's an emergency. Welcome to COVID, right? Moving into critical race theory. This is interesting. I think this is, funny is not the right word for it. I think hypocritical, it strikes me as all of those things, I suppose. But this is Carleton FLA serving the Carleton federal riding, including Sittsville, Richmond, Greenlee, Metcalfe, Manitouk, Finley Creek, and Riverside South. So this is like the liberal organizing entity. I don't know if it's just one for that whole area. I guess so. But they say Pierre Poilievre sure loves this hoodie. Do his loyalties lie in Carleton or in Fort McMurray? Does he deny climate change? And what's with the clenched white fist? A white supremacy symbol? Really? What does Poilievre stand for? Who's he fighting for? We'd like to know, wouldn't you? And there's the picture they use. I mean, kind of a gotcha picture. We talked about all of this yesterday, right? Here's PhD in common sense. He says it's the same symbol, but according to the liberals, only one is racist. Black Lives Matter fist. Oil sands fist, same image, different reversed coloring, right? The white is the palm in this one, and the black is the palm in Poilievre's. One's racist, totally racist, and not racist at all. Very interesting indeed, the way people try and spin this. And like, I think that that's below a professional response. Like that's not, if you're trying to be the spokesperson for this entity, and I think it's an official, I don't know if it's an official entity, but if you're trying to be the spokesperson for this, I don't know if people are going to take that seriously. I mean, it looks like they are, but I don't know. It's very concerning what's going on, because that's not policy. That's just trying to tar and feather Poilievre for political reasons. That's it. And carrying on with critical race theory. This is going to wake a few people up, says Caddy. I tagged this because I thought there's no way this is true. But this is an interesting turn. A white family making $20,000 won't be able to participate, but a black family making $58,000 will. Restricting access to public programs based on skin color is wrong. It was wrong in 1951, and it's still wrong today. These people have us on a path to open tribal warfare. Oakland, to give $500 checks to low-income families, but white families are not allowed to be included in the program. Low-income families of color eligible for free cash under Oakland program. Under the plan, participants would be randomly selected, and white people, who earn 3 times as much as blacks on an average in the city, are not eligible. So, yeah, I mean, can you wait for the coming race war? Right? Like, that's not great. That's not a good outcome. We don't want that. This is Sesame Street's pushing racial justice for toddlers in ABCs of racial literacy segments. I tagged one earlier, and I guess I didn't put it in right or something to that effect. Sometimes that happens. But it said, Elmo asked why this boy's skin color was black. And I was like, Elmo's red. Like, he's asking why this kid's black and he's red? You're a red monster, Elmo. Honestly, it's crazy. Like, we're around the bend crazy now, right? And I think the other thing said, skin color is an important part of who we are. And okay, fine, sure, it can be an important part of who you are, but it should not define you. It should not define you for everything at all time. Like, Sorry about that, but this is the wrong way to do this, and we know that. This is not a surprise that this is the wrong way to do this. They are driving this division, and they are indoctrinating children to think in terms of race, and it is not helpful. It is not good. Okay, we'll finish on kids. I said we touch on this again. This article is a week old. I've been thinking about it all week. 4 times as many kids trying to kill themselves. Kids trying to kill themselves. We have thrown our youngest off a cliff to appease the plague gods. It did not work. Shame on us all. And yeah, I'm going to read a little bit of this. McMaster Children's Hospital says it's seen a steady increase of youth in crisis since the COVID-19 pandemic began. According to the hospital, youth admitted for medical support after a suicide attempt has tripled over a 4-month period compared to last year. The hospital also said that patients are staying in hospital longer due to more serious attempts. McMaster Children's... I forgot to bring myself back. Sorry about that. McMaster Children's Hospital says a large number of these youth have reported COVID-19 related issues such as lack of social interaction, increased conflict at home, and the inability to rely on friends as main contributors. We are all coping with multiple stressors brought on by the current pandemic, says Dr. Paulo Pierce, psychologist and clinical director of child and youth at Mental Health Outpatient Service. We must be attentive to the unique impacts of these stressors on children and youth depending on their stage of development. The hospital said that over the same period, youth admitted with substance use disorders have doubled compared to last year. The hospital says in particular the use of potentially deadly opiates has increased. The number of cases admitted to hospital with predominant symptoms of psychosis has doubled, with the large majority related to substance abuse. Here is social isolation and other factors. McMaster's Children's Hospital says mental health challenges during the pandemic can be a result of increased isolation and boredom, lack of day-to-day structure, family tension due to more time spent at home, anxiety related to attending school in person or virtually, limited access to doctors, teachers, coaches, and peers who may notice changes in health, additional stress due to systemic racism. Elmo's red! He's red! But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Ontario considers move to make remote learning permanent for all boards going forward. We're making it permanent, baby. We love it. We love it. We love it. You know what we love? We love the fewer kids in classrooms. We love fewer kids in schools. And soon we'll transition all kids from schools to online. If they don't like it, tough luck. We'll just use COVID. We'll use COVID as the excuse. Everyone will be online and everyone will be happy. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Here's your tablet, kid. Go to school. You're welcome. The Ontario government is considering legislation that would make remote learning a permanent part of the public school system, according to a confidential ministry document. The document from the Ministry of Education obtained by the Globe and Mail was shared in a meeting earlier this week with various education groups, including trustees, school administrators, and teachers' unions. It was marked confidential and for consultation purposes. Quote, if introduced and passed, beginning in September 2021, parents would continue to have the ability to enroll their children in full-time synchronous remote learning if they choose going forward, the document stated. School boards would be also required to provide students with remote learning on snow days and in the event of an emergency that results in a school closure. Ontario's back-to-school plan this academic year, after the first COVID-19 lockdown last spring, offered families a choice between remote learning and in-class instruction. Roughly 300,000 elementary students and 100,000 secondary students enrolled in remote learning this academic year, representing 20% of the overall student population. Critics have charged that the option to extend virtual learning beyond the pandemic will disrupt the province's public education system and open the doors to privatization. Scroll down. Asked about the possible legislation around remote learning, Caitlin Clark, a spokeswoman for the Education Minister Stephen Leasey, said that Wednesday's budget provided investments for online learning and broadband funding. The government said it was investing $40 million over 2 years to improve remote learning technology. The money would be used to improve connectivity in school buildings and allow students and teachers to participate in remote learning, quote, in response to COVID-19 and for the future. The budget read. Online learning has been absolutely critical in ensuring students' continuity of learning through the pandemic and in mitigating learning loss, Ms. Clark said in a statement. We continue to consult and engage with stakeholders on maintaining this choice for parents and ensuring its availability in September. I still haven't seen any kind of studies that compare in school for kindergarten with online for kindergarten, in school for grade 1, and so on up to grade 5. I haven't seen anything. And I worked in education, and I know what the data said up to 2015, and it said more screen time is bad. So where's your data? Drives me Crazy. It drives me crazy when they mess with our kids. Okay. The ministry document stated that the province is considering a policy in which high school students would have guaranteed access. Here's the rub. This is the point when the teachers go, oh, you mean you want to get rid of teachers? Ding, 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 ding. Everybody just caught up. Watch this, okay? The ministry document stated that the province is considering a policy in which the high school students would have guaranteed access to their choice of any course on a standardized list of online courses. The change would begin in time for the course selections for 2022-23. High school students would have the option to enroll in a teacher-supported online course or an independent learning course offered through a center operated by TVO for English language students and TFO for French language students. School boards would be required to transfer a fee to TVO or TFO, the document stated, a fee for the course material, the coursework, the video, the person talking to the student, the teacher. Right? Catch up, right? The union didn't get it, and now they get it. Whoops, they got played, right? Further, TVO and TFO would put forward a global development strategy to market online courses and generate revenue. The document stated TVO and TFO would be able to enroll out-of-province students in online courses. Would they be Canadian students? School boards would not be able to do so, according to the document. Wow. In response, the province's elementary teacher union is responding to reports that Ontario is looking at making virtual learning permanent. The ETFO said the plan is an attack on public education and will divert funds to private companies. Oh, we'll get those kids back in school good and quick. You guys want to strike in April? So I think that it's very interesting what's going on with regards to the schools. The union got played. Now they know they got played, and now they're going to push back, but it's going to be a different way. They're going to be dragging TFO through the mud. Remember when Rogers had they had the Spectrum auction in Ontario, and we had the 24/7 Rogers and Bell ads that having more competition was actually worse for you. It would drive prices up. Those Americans can't come into our market. Remember that? ETFO will have similar ones. They'll get the doctor. Listen, this guy will threaten to come right to your house, and he will break your kneecaps if you don't do what the ETFO says. Seriously. I mean, he is not kidding around. Look at him, right? My goodness. Okay, one or two more stories and then we're done. 4 men came out today. It would have been 5, but I had to go. Several men are coming out tomorrow, plus 3 women from Calgary are making the trip, and a married couple, of course. This guy is standing outside. He says, I'm outside the Alberta legislature because politicians need to know why children cannot consent to puberty blockers. I've talked about this before. If you're 18, you're an adult, and you want to do what you want to do, hey man, more power to you. Do whatever you want. But don't target our kids. Don't target our kids. It's terrible. Terrible what's happening across our country. You can't even speak about it. They're criminalizing that. This kind of stuff, talking about this kind of stuff in not a positive light. I'm just trying to inform people about what's going on in the country. But talking about it in not a negative light gets the censors going, oh, I don't know about that, right? So it is a scary situation where in Canada, the doctors are more interested in making sure somebody who is under 18, who is potentially suffering from mental illness, gender dysphoria, or other related body image issues, they're more interested in making sure that person can access a safe transition with hormones and surgeries than they are at making sure that person can access reasonable and effective mental health interventions. And I think that that's like because we used to be a country that did that. We used to be a country that prioritized that. We used to be a country that valued good healthcare and informed consent and not trialing gene therapies and pretending they're vaccines and then labeling anybody who's concerned about that as an anti-vaxxer. I mean, what a crazy, crazy thing to happen, right? What a wild world to live in. Unbelievable. Okay, yesterday they stopped. This is Cambridge, not Guelph. But they stopped in Guelph the parades of emergency cars for birthdays and things because it was disruptive. Yesterday, the Cambridge Times says emergency vehicles will be tooting their horns to show appreciation for essential workers. Watch out for traffic disruptions in these areas today. What a waste of money. What a ridiculous, stupid waste of money. Okay, this is great. And this is how we'll end our show. Not in Canada at all, but this is Joe Biden, unedited. This is from the press conference. Yesterday he had a sheet with a big picture of the reporter, the question they were going to ask, and probably the answer he was supposed to give them. And they were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I mean, numbers are hard, man. You know, if you're at 5, what comes next? 5, Here's Joe.
So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's complete lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about. Okay, hang on. Sorry. Oh, Miss Kim.
And there you have it. President of the United States, everyone. Isn't it a refreshing change? My goodness. Just like a cold breeze in the face after a long, and you know that Con Air gif, right? Hold on, I'll get it. That's the one. Maybe too little. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Ridiculous. President of the United States, everyone. Whew. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope the sound's okay.